Hi everyone, I'm Cindy Winget, the author of Gothic Horror Mashups, and welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be doing a book haul video. So this is going to encompass the last 4 months, so December, January, February, and I know we're still in March, but this will also be for March. So I received 2 Barnes & Noble gift cards for Christmas and a little bit of money, so some of this is from Christmas, and then some of it's from book box subscriptions, and then my birthday was at the beginning of March, which is why I also have some books from March, and then other like random books I just picked up in the last 3.5 months. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start out with my YA book. So this is all genres, but they're all young adult. Actually, before I get into the YA stuff, I do have one manga that I bought this year, and that's Spy Family number 13. So I'm really enjoying Spy Family. It's really interesting. If you don't know anything about this manga, it's about a guy who is a spy, and he has to be married and have a kid as part of his cover. And so he talks this lady into doing it for him because she's like 27 and not married, and she's embarrassed that she's not married yet. And so she's like, oh yeah, I'll pretend to be your wife. You know, I would like to have a pretend husband for when people ask. And so she becomes his wife, but she's actually secretly an assassin. And then they adopt a little girl to be their child, and she ends up having telepathic abilities. So, you know, this whole family has secrets that they keep from each other, and it's just really funny and humorous and enjoyable. I'm not really into spy things so much, but it doesn't like overtake the novel, and it is quite comedic sometimes. So I really have been enjoying this series. So, and I apologize if you could hear the airplanes. I live right by the base, and so we get airplanes and jets all the time. So I apologize if you can hear that. So with some of my Christmas money, I really wanted to get the rest of the Fear Street books that I have been missing, because I have all of Fear Street, but like a few of them because they were the more expensive ones, and so I held off. So I thought it was finally time to get these books that I've been missing. So I got The Best Friend number 2, I got Fear Hall The Conclusion, and then I got Cat, which I just love this cover. I think it's so cool. And then I also wanted to get another copy of The Mind Reader, because the spine is all ripped up down here, and I just wanted a little bit better of a copy. So I went ahead and bought The Mind Reader, but unfortunately when the copy arrived, it was actually worse than this one. So that was kind of a bust, but maybe I'll try again sometime. And then I also got a point horror book called Prom Date by Diane Ho. And then if you saw my reading vlog for Grady Hendrix' new book, then you'll have already seen that I bought this book. But I got a science fiction book called All Better Now by Neil Shusterman. I love Neil Shusterman. I think he's a fantastic author, and even though his books are YA, I think that they're very nuanced and fun, and he likes to show like different sides of the specific thing that he's talking about, which I love. Seeing like all the aspects of the premise, or all aspects of the idea that he came up with. So I'm assuming this is the start of a new series. I don't actually know. That's just an assumption. But this is a dystopian novel about a virus, and I had no idea this was even coming out. I was just at Target, and I randomly saw it on the shelf, and I was so excited and instantly had to buy it. So I'm very excited to get to this one, hopefully as soon as possible. Okay, so I don't know why, but I'm a little bit embarrassed about the next 2, because they are some book series that I swore I would never read. I'm just not really into fantasy anymore, and I heard they could be smutty, and I'm not into smutty books. But my sister really loves them, and when I was at Target, when I saw the Neil Shusterman book, I saw these, and so I just was like, oh, I could talk to my sister about them, and I kind of had FOMO, and so I just decided to go ahead and buy them. So I am talking about Sarah J. Maas. So I bought Throne of Glass, and then I actually bought A Court of Mist and Fury, and then I showed my sister, and I was like, woohoo, look what I bought. And she was like, okay, but you know that's not the first one, right? And I was like, it's not. So I had to go back and get A Court of Thorns and Roses. So now I have the first and the second one, so I hope I like it. But I actually had somebody in my book club say that it doesn't really get smutty until like the fifth or sixth book. So maybe I'll be okay, at least in the beginning. So I don't know, I'm gonna check her out and we'll see. And then I got this cute little YA romance called Dating and Dragons. I actually already own the first one, which I think is Dungeons and Drama. So I already own that one, and so I saw there was a second one, and I haven't read the first one yet, so I don't know if it's good, but you know, they go together and they both seem really cute, and my husband's into Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know, I just thought it looked like a cute little fun romance, so I picked it up. And then I have 2 YA horrors. I have Mother Dear, and this one was a complete cover buy, I'll be honest. I just think the cover is really cool. And I do have a couple of Ivy Tholen books. The only one I've read is Tastes Like Candy. And I thought it was decent. Like, it wasn't my favorite thing ever, but, you know, it was kind of fun. But obviously she's going to have, like, mother issues. I don't really know anything else about this, but I just thought the cover was really fun. And who doesn't like a good mother issue book? So anyways, and then I got Snowdrowned, and this one I've already read, and again, it was just okay. If you like more like cosmic-y folk horror stuff that's on an island, then I think you would like this, but that's not necessarily the type of horror that I like. This is very culty, so if you like that type of stuff, then you might find this enjoyable. And then I have 3 YA thrillers, and the first one is No Place Left to Hide. This is by the same author that did That's Not My Name, which again, I haven't read yet, but I saw she had another one out, and I've heard such good things about the first one, so I just went ahead and picked it up. And then I got The Party by Natasha Preston. I just thought this was gorgeous. I love the house, I love the pink. I just thought this was really cute. So I saw this at Walmart when I was grocery shopping, and I just, you know, on a whim kind of picked it up. Natasha Preston, I have a hate-love relationship with. I've read a couple of hers that I really enjoyed, and then I've read others that I didn't think were very good. And she kind of tricks you because you have to read more than the first few chapters, because I don't know why, but the very first couple of chapters are always, always, always poorly written and like super, super, super YA. And if you just read like the first 2 chapters, you're going to be like, ugh, you know. But if you can get past that initial part, then usually you end up getting a pretty decent story. So at least that's how it is for me. I don't know why, but the beginning is always like super cheesy and the dialogue's weird and I don't know. But like once you get into it, then you're like, okay, you know, this could be fun. So I'm hoping I like this. And then we have You're Dead to Me, and it says prom night will be a killer. I don't know, this just gives me like vintage Fear Street vibes, and I like the cover with this cute little bracelet, so I thought I'd give it a try. Okay, so that's all the YA books I have, so let's go ahead and get into the adult novels. We're going to start with horror, and we're going to start with Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This one, if you saw my vlog, I just barely read, and I really enjoyed it. I had to put it up on the screen because I actually already got rid of my copy on Pango.com not because I didn't like it, because I really did like it. I thought it was very well written. I thought it was very well done. The witchcraft part didn't exactly do it for me, but overall I thought it was a really good horror novel. But I know myself well enough to know I'm never going to reread it. I'm severely running out of room on my bookshelf, so I just decided to get rid of it. But again, it's no bearing on the book because I did enjoy it. But I did think it was a little long. And then we have The Vengeful Dead by Darcy Coates. This is the 5th book in her Gravekeeper series about a woman who can see ghosts, and she loses her memory and ends up in this little graveyard, and she kind of hides out there because people are after her, but she can't remember why. So anyways, very enjoyable series. I really enjoyed my time with it. I love the cute little town that she moves to and her friend group, and it's very cozy, and it's got a very unique twist, or whatever you want to call it. You know, when it comes to ghosts, I haven't heard anything like this before, so it's very unique in that way. And then we have Daughters of the Lake by Wendy Webb. I read this book several years ago on my Kindle, And I always wanted a physical copy, but I just have a hard time buying books that I've already read, to be honest. So I finally made the leap and bought a physical copy of it. And then if you saw my Grady Hendrix vlog and you saw me go shopping at Barnes & Noble, you'll have already seen these two books. But I picked up Victorian Psycho. I love books set in Victorian times, and it kind of gives me Patrick Bateman vibes, but like Victorian. I've never read or seen American Psycho, but I know what it's about, so I'm hoping to get the same type of vibes, but like historical is what I'm hoping. It's just a short little novella, but apparently it has something to do with Christmas, so I'm holding off until December to read this. And then I also got Something in the Walls. And I don't know much about this other than, these people move into this house and they think that something's living in the walls. But I think it has something to do with witchcraft. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's going to be gothic. It gives me gothic vibes. So that's what I'm hoping to get from this. But we shall see. And then I got The Bog Wife. And this one is very much folk horror, which doesn't always work for me, but it just sounded really intriguing. So basically there's like a tradition in this remote place. I think it's in, I don't know where this is set. Okay, I thought so. I was going to say Appalachia, but I don't know. I've heard it said Appalachia, and then I've also heard Appalachia, so I don't know how you say that word. I would say let me know in the comments, but it's spelled the same, so I'm not going to know which way you're saying it. So that's not very helpful. But anyways, this takes place in what I would say Appalachia, but I think it's actually Appalachia. But they are at this cranberry farm where they grow cranberries, but it's more like a bog because I guess it has to be really wet when you're making cranberries. I saw a thing on TV. I think it was Top Chef, and they had to go gather cranberries, and the cranberries were like floating on top of the water. And I didn't know that's how you grew cranberries, but anyways, so they live at this cranberry bog and they need to have a sacrifice, and so they sacrifice men. They sacrifice the patriarch of their little community, and it gives them the bog wife. She comes from the bog and she's created from the bog, and I don't know what her purpose is. I don't know why they do this. Maybe it gives them like a healthy crop is what I'm assuming. But anyways, sounds very folk horror, which could work for me, could not. It just kind of depends, but it just sounded intriguing, so I wanted to give it a try. And then I got Hex Education, and this is just more fun. This is more like chick lit, but with a little bit of spookiness to it. Obviously this one's about witches, so I'm excited to get to it. I love the purple. And then these ones, I don't think they're necessarily horror, but they're kind of like horror adjacent, and they're more historical fiction. So the first one is The Resurrectionist. This is about body snatching, obviously, in a time when they used to get fresh bodies for the medical students. I love Frankenstein. I love everything to do with resurrectionists and Victorian times and like macabre medical practices. I love that kind of stuff, and I just love this cover. I actually made the leap to start my Aardvark book subscription because I saw that this was a pick for Aardvark, and I always been wanting to take part in Aardvark, but I just kept putting it off, and this finally made me take the leap. Unfortunately, it was sold out. So I actually didn't get this from Aardvark, but I went to Pingo Books and found a copy, which, was from Aardvark, ironically. But anyways, I haven't read this yet, which is surprising because I wanted to read it like the second I got it. But, other things for videos or book clubs or different things take precedence, and I just got shoved back. So hopefully I can get to it soon. And then going along with that same vein, we have The Girl in His Shadows. This isn't necessarily about body snatching. It does mention it once or twice, but mostly this is about surgeries in Victorian times. And you have this woman who, lives in a time when women weren't supposed to take place in medical practices or procedures. But she grows up in that world, and she becomes an apprentice to one of the elite surgeons in Victorian times, and so she is kind of in the shadows, hence the title. But I loved this book. I thought it was so good. If you like hearing about Victorian surgeries, this has a lot of it in it, so you'll definitely get your fill. and it had a little bit of romance, and I love all the historical stuff, and I just thought it was so well done, so well written, and I can't wait to read more from this author. Well, this is a pair of authors, I should say. And then I got The Second Life of Mariel West, and this is about a woman who's living in 1920s New York, and she's part of the elite group. She's married to a movie star, and she's rich, and I don't know if she herself is famous. It just says she's a socialite, so maybe. But either way, she's part of the Ritz and glamour, like when you think of The Great Gatsby, she's part of that scene. But she ends up contracting leprosy and ends up going to this remote hospital somewhere, and all the horrors that come with it. So I thought that was really interesting. Usually it ends up being like tuberculosis or something like that. I've never read a book about leprosy. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I'm excited to read this. Then we have The Secret of the Three Fates. And this is by the same author that did The Curse at Penrith Hall. And I actually DNF'd that book. It wasn't like terrible, but it just wasn't completely holding my attention. And so I decided to put it down. So I don't know why I picked this up. This is the second one in the series. Well, I do know why, but I'm hoping this one works better for me than the first one. I picked this up because it has to do with like seances and spiritualism and that kind of stuff. And I love books about that topic. And, I had a Barnes & Noble gift card, so I just figured, I'm not buying it technically. So why not give it a shot? So I'm hoping that this is going to work better for me than the first one, because like I said, the first one wasn't bad. It just wasn't completely enthralling either. So we'll see. And then speaking of the Aardvark book club, so the first book I wanted to get was The Resurrectionist, which was sold out. And then the next book I wanted to get, well, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, so maybe I won't say. But I was going to get another book, but I ended up already buying it. And so I was like, crap, I guess I have to go get something else. So I ended up getting Junie, and this is a historical novel, but it has some magical realism to it. So I don't know much about this other than I think it's about the Civil War and slavery and stuff. And then you have this black girl who has some kind of magical ability. I just thought I'd give it a shot. I thought it sounded pretty good. It wasn't my first book that month, but might be a good second choice. And then this next one's not historical fiction, but I just didn't know where to put it because I like to do it by genre. I'm talking about The House of My Mother. This is a memoir, and this is about the daughter of a woman who exploits her kids for social media views. And I think there's a therapist that gets involved who's just as despicable as the mother. And these two women abuse these kids. But of course, on social media, they have like their perfect little family life, and they make it all look like sunshine and daisies, but behind closed doors, bad things are happening, which is unfortunate. And this happened really close to me. It happened close to where I live. And so I actually have a friend who knew this family. So I didn't know them personally, but it's pretty close to home. So, okay, so that's all of the horror / historical fiction books that I have. So now we're going to move on to science fiction and fantasy. So I ended up picking up Shatterpoint because I love Mace Windu, and there was a new book called Mace Windu, and I really, really wanted it. And I kept wanting to go to the store to get it, but I kept putting it off, and like, okay, I'll get it eventually. So then when I went to Barnes & Noble with that book in mind, it was gone. And I was like, dang it. Of course it would be gone when I finally decided to buy it. But I saw this one, which also is about Mace Windu, and I read the premise and it sounded pretty interesting. So I decided to go ahead and pick it up. I've never read a Star Wars book before, but I don't know. I just really like Mace Windu. I don't know that much about him, to be honest, but I love that his lightsaber is purple, first of all. And he just seems like a really cool, interesting character, and so I just wanted to read a book about him. And when I saw there was a new one out and it was really pretty, I wanted to get it, but like I said, it was gone. So this is my second choice, but it does sound good. And I have heard that Rachel at the Shade of Orange, she liked this book, and so that gives me good hope that I will like it too. And then just recently in my Book of the Month box, I received The Ministry of Time. This is light science fiction. This is only science fiction in the sense that it has time travel in it. And so this is about a man who is from the past who time travels into the future, and he's trying to figure out our modern life. And I always think that's fun. I think this has like romance and mystery and, time travel, that kind of stuff. I hear really good things about it, so I am intrigued. And then this is the book that I just barely bought, and then like a week later when I went to pick out my aardvark pick for the month, it ended up being a choice, and I was like, dang it, I should have just waited, but I didn't know. But I am talking about The Death of an Author. So that's when I ended up getting Junie instead, because I had already bought this one. And it's got these beautiful blue sprayed edges. And the only thing I really know about this is it's about an author, which I love. I love books about authors. And she is a science fiction author. And so I think she used to write something else, but then she's like, I'm going to try my hand at science fiction, but she doesn't tell anybody that she wrote this science fiction book. So then people start like talking about it, and she gets to kind of hear people's opinion on her work without them knowing that it's her. But I know there's more to the story than that, but that's all I really remember at the moment. But yeah, I thought it sounded interesting. And then I picked up a couple novels by Cixin Liu. So we got Supernova Era. This one kind of sounds like a futuristic Lord of the Flies type situation, or even like Children of the Corn, where basically there's some kind of virus that wipes out all of the adults, but they know it's coming, and so they're trying to teach their children how to run the planet and how to run a government and how to get them to a place where society can thrive without having any adults. It's now going to be run only by children, which sounds very interesting, very intriguing. I love that premise, so I hope the execution lives up to it. And then I got Ball Lightning, and I had never heard of Ball Lightning before. I hear it's really, really cool. Like if you've seen Ball Lightning in real life, apparently it's amazing. So I didn't even know it existed, but I hear really good things about this book. But basically, I think this Ball Lightning kills this kid's parents, and then he's like becomes obsessed with the science behind it and how he can harness this power and use it. So I don't really know too much about it, but I do hear it's a good one. So if you like his Remembrance of Earth trilogy, then maybe try out these other two. That's what I'm doing. So that's all the science fiction. So now we're doing the fantasy. This book was recommended to me by my friend Amy. It's called The Keeper of Enchanted Rooms. So this one sounds like it's a lot of things, because this is about a writer who ends up buying a haunted house. So it's got some horror elements. But then I also hear it's very magical, hence the fantasy. And it has some mystery. It might even have a little bit of romance. So it's just like everything in one book. But I put it with my fantasy books because it looks fantastical. And I think the horror elements are going to be pretty tame. I think it's more like cozy horror. So I think this is going to be more fantastical than anything else. But we shall see. I don't really know anything about it, to be honest, but she really loved it and said it was really good. So I went ahead and picked up a copy the next time I had money on Pingo. And then this is like Sarah J. Maas, where I swore up and down I was never going to read this book because I hear it's pretty smutty. But the FOMO got to me, and it was there with the Sarah J. Maas book, so I picked them up at the same time. And again, it's a book that my sister really likes, and it's something we could talk about together, so I decided to buy Fourth Wing. I didn't know there was supposed to be 5 books. I thought it was a trilogy and they were all out, but apparently not. But this is really fun. It has these cute little dragons on the pages, so that's cute. So I have read a romance by Rebecca Yarros, and I thought it was really well done. I didn't care for the ending, but the writing was really good, and so I know I like her writing at least. And I'm thinking maybe I can just skip the smutty scenes. I just don't like it. It's just not for me. I don't like smutty books, but I'm hoping, I like dragons. And like I said, I'm not really into fantasy that much anymore. I don't really read fantasy that much anymore, but it's something I could talk about with my sister. And like I said, the FOMO was kind of getting to me and it was there. So I just decided to get it. I hope I like it. And then from Book of the Month, I picked up a few fantasies here and there. And the first one is Bloodguard, which again, beautiful sprayed edges. And this one sounds like a Gladiator type book, and I love the movie Gladiator. But it looks like he's like slaying a dragon or something. So I thought that was really interesting. I know sometimes in Gladiator pits they'd have like the tigers and stuff. So this time it's dragons. So I don't know. I just thought, maybe it would be the type of fantasy that I could really get into. So I think that he's supposed to be in the pit because he's trying to vie for the hand of like an elven princess or something. Or maybe he's a war criminal. I don't really know. But I just thought it was pretty. I thought it was a fantasy book that I could get behind. So hopefully it works for me. And then I also picked up The Dagger and Flame by Catherine Doyle. And this, I think, is basically you have like an assassin and maybe the person that's supposed to be assassinated and they fall in love or something like that. It just says, in the dark underbelly of a beautiful city, two rival gang members are pitted against each other in a deadly game of duty and revenge, in which the most dangerous mistake is falling in love. So yeah, they're like part of two different guilds or something, I don't know, or two different gangs. So maybe it's like a fantasy version of West Side Story, I don't know. It's pretty big, which is intimidating. I don't know, I have a hard time with big books sometimes because it just depends on how invested I am in the story. But, it was an option on Book of the Month, and I just thought I'd give it a shot, so we'll see. And then I got Rebel Witch, which is the second book to Heartless Hunter. I have not read the first one, but they both have beautiful covers, and it reminds me of, what is it called? Serpent and Dove, where you have like a witch and a witch hunter, but then they fall in love. So I've heard really good things about this duology, so I'm excited to check it out. So that's all the science fiction and fantasy books that I have. We're going to go ahead and move on to thriller. This is the second book to Flowers in the Attic. I really enjoyed Flowers in the Attic, even though it's completely messed up. And I never really cared to move on with the series. There's like 4 books. But I don't know, I saw a book by Cameron Chaney and it kind of changed my mind. And so I wanted to pick up the second one and give it a go. So this is after the events that took place in Flowers in the Attic, and now we get to see how the children are doing after the despicable things that their mother and grandmother subjected them to. And then I picked up The Crash by Frida McFadden, mostly because it was snowy. I'll be honest, I just love a good snowy thriller. I've only read one book by Frida McFadden, which was The Housemaid, but I did enjoy it, so hopefully this one will be another good one. And then this one, I made the same mistake with my aardvark, where I went out and bought the book and then it ended up being available on aardvark, and I did it again. I need to stop this. So I bought You Are Fatally Invited. Lo and behold, it ends up being an aardvark choice, and so I ended up getting a romance instead. But yeah, I was pretty upset with myself. I need to just hold off for a month on buying books so I can find out what's available before I do that again. So anyways, this is kind of like Agatha Christie's Then There Were None, where basically you're on this island, and then you start getting picked off one by one. So sounds like a fun time. And then I got Lisa Unger's new book, Close Your Eyes and Count to 10. This is essentially an adult version of hide and seek, where people get picked off one by one on an island. So a lot like You Are Fatally Invited. I love the cover. And I love the premise. I think I'm going to read this probably in the summertime. Seems pretty summery. And then the 1 month that did work for me for aardvark is I got Cross My Heart. And this sounds like a thriller version of Return to Me. If you've seen that movie where the guy's wife ends up passing away and then a woman gets her heart as a heart transplant and then they end up falling in love. I love that movie. And this sounds like that, but thrillery. So a guy's wife passes away, another woman gets her heart, and then she becomes obsessed with the husband and thinks that they should be together. And so I love a good obsession story, so sounds interesting. And then as an add-on that month, I got The Fiction Writer. I had already read this book and I really enjoyed it, and so I thought it would be nice to have my own copy. This is a retelling of Rebecca. I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not like my favorite thing ever because I feel like the ending kind of dropped the ball a little bit. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the atmosphere, the vibes, and then the characters. So I wanted my own copy, and now I have it. Okay, so the rest of these thrillers are thrillers that I've picked up from Book of the Month. So we have A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall. I've already read this one, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't like my favorite thriller ever, but I thought it was pretty decent, though. And this is about a girl who goes with her boyfriend, or fiance, I should say, to this remote cabin area, which is where his rich family vacations during the winter time. And so she goes up there to meet the parents, meet the family. But then she discovers in one of the cabins that there's a picture of her when she was a kid. And she's like, why is there a picture of me as a child in this remote place with this guy that I just got engaged to? So pretty intriguing. I thought it was pretty fun. And then I picked up Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I really enjoyed Alice Feeney's writing, so I'm excited to read something else from her. The only thing I know about this is it's about a writer and something's going on with his wife. I don't even know. It sounds like he calls his wife to give her some exciting news, and then he hears her get into a car accident, and then she's disappeared though. So when they go to the site of the crash, there's no body. I don't know. I like Alice Feeney, so had to pick up her new one. And then I just recently picked up Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. I just love the color scheme of this book, first of all. And again, I don't really know that much about this. I don't really know what this is about, if I'm being honest, but I like the cover and I hear good things about it, so I probably just going to go on blind and hope for the best. And then in that same box, I picked up Count My Lies. And I've never heard of this book or this author, so this will be new to me. I don't know if this is a debut or not. Basically, it was just the thriller pick for Book of the Month, so I decided to go for it. So I don't really know anything about it. It sounds like it might be one of those books where there's like two women that kind of get obsessed with each other and with each other's lives, but I don't really know. And then I also picked up Famous Last Words, and the only thing I really know about this is I think this is about a new mother, but then her husband commits some sort of crime, and so she's dealing with having a newborn and then simultaneously dealing with her husband's crime, whatever it is. So that's all the thriller books that I have. My last group of books are all romance. So I have 2 holiday romances. The first one being The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year. I read this in December, and it didn't blow me away, but I thought it was fun for what it was. This is trying to be like a murder mystery thriller combined with a romance, and I really enjoyed the romance aspects of this book, but I thought the thriller murder mystery part was a little bit lacking. So it was decent, but it wasn't like a new favorite. And then we have The Holiday Honeymoon Switch, and I basically got this because I read The Holiday Switch. So I read The Holiday Switch and really enjoyed it, and so this sounds very similar, other than, it's the honeymoon holiday switch, where basically you have these 2 sisters who switch lives and end up falling in love. Anyways, I really enjoyed that other book, so I'm hoping to get the same type of feels from this one. And then I mentioned that because I already bought You're Fatally Invited, I had to get it something else from Aardvark, and I mentioned that I got a romance, and that is called Back After This. I think this is an enemies to lovers book about this girl who runs a podcast, and her boss ends up saying that she could have her own show instead of being on other people's podcasts, but she has to do it in tandem with this guy, and she's not happy about it. So anyways, it's got this cute little puppy on the cover, and it sounds like a fun rom-com, so this is what I chose for Aardvark for the month of March. And then from Book of the Month, I got First Time Caller. This is supposed to be a retelling of Sleepless in Seattle, and I love Sleepless in Seattle, so that's predominantly why I chose this. I thought the cover was really cute too, so I'm excited to read this one. And then I picked up Things You Save in a Fire. I've read a couple of books by Catherine Center, and I really have enjoyed them. I've enjoyed her writing style, and she doesn't have any sex scenes in her books, which I really appreciate. So I've heard really good things about this one in particular, so I decided to pick it up. I believe she ends up falling in love with the firefighter, but I could be wrong. And then this last one isn't technically romance. I believe it's women's lit, but it's called The Wedding People. I got this for free from Book of the Month because it was a Lolly Awards runner-up. So basically this is about a woman who is not having a very good time in her life, and she just decides to have one luxurious night to herself, and she goes to this hotel, which is a little bit out of her price range, but she just wants to, enjoy one night of freedom and luxury. But what she doesn't know is a wedding is taking place at this hotel. And people mistake her for one of the guests because most of the people staying at the hotel are guests. So she's like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll just attend this wedding, So she crashes this wedding and meets a bunch of people and starts to turn her life around. And I don't know. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a feel-good book or if it's a depressing book. But it was free, so I figured, why not? Hey guys, so I actually have one more book to show you. So I recently bought a couple of books on Pango, but they hadn't arrived yet. And so I was just going to hold on to them until I had another book haul video. But just as I got done filming this video, one of them arrived. So I'm going to go ahead and do like a book unboxing for you guys. I'm actually kneeling by my bed, so I don't know why the package is so big, but let's open her up. Well, I really want it to be protected. It's even in another one. Oh, and it's in another one. I really want it to be protected. Oh, I love when I do this. It's like a little present. That's so cute. Oh, looks like we have a little note on the back. So let's open that up. It says, hope this package brightens your day. Oh, that's so sweet. Ah, stickers. It says, thank you, enjoy. I just love the book community. They're awesome people. In my defense, I was left unsupervised. Oh yeah. These are cute stickers. When I die, delete my Kindle history. Oh yeah, that's definitely me. My husband will appreciate that one. Books and coffee. I don't drink coffee, but it's still very cute. That's very nice of her. I have a few stickers that I keep meaning to put in my own boxes to people, but half the time I forget. Okay. So let's open her up and see which one it is that I have. It's Our Winter Monster. So this one actually just barely came out, and I was going to buy it at Barnes & Noble, but it's actually not very long, and yet it's like 28 bucks. And I was like, I don't know if I want to spend $28 for this because I don't know if it's good or not. I haven't really heard anything about it. It's very short. It's a new author to me, so I was like, I don't know. Maybe I should wait until it's in paperback. So I was going to wait until it's on paperback so that it would be cheaper. But then I was like, you know what? I should look on Pango and see if there's a copy on Pango for a little bit cheaper. And there was. I think I got it for like 15 or something. I could be wrong. So yay, very excited. So I think this one is about a couple that go on this drive, but they're kind of having marital issues. And then a snow monster comes out of the woodwork and, wreaks some havoc. So very excited. So that's all the books I have for you. I think there was over 50 of them. I hope you enjoyed it though. And if you did, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post videos every Friday, and I hope to see you in the next one. See ya.